Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and this is your news update for the week of January 24th, 2021. And this past week was a lot of news about iOS 14.4 releasing, as well as maybe some new MacBooks, iOS 15 compatibility, and more. But first I wanted to talk about the upcoming iPhone for 2021. It seems like we just got the iPhone 12 Pro Max, but there's a lot of information saying that the iPhone 13 or iPhone 12s, whatever Apple decides to call it, according to Digitimes, Apple is indeed working to shrink the notch. A lot of people don't like the notch, and so Apple is working on making this smaller. Whether that means horizontally or vertically, though, is yet to be seen. I think they're going to shrink it vertically more than horizontally, as if you've seen the Pixel 3 XL, for example, from Google, the horizontal notch is narrower and it just doesn't look as good. So if they could shrink it vertically, make more of the screen available when watching video, I think that would be the better way to do it. Apparently they've found a way to do this by combining some of the Face ID components to make the modules smaller overall. So I look forward to that. Now, also according to Digitimes, Apple is working on bringing sensor shift stabilization like we have in the iPhone 12 Pro Max over to all iPhones in 2021. This would bring a couple advantages. One is the stability could be improved. We no longer would have the lens mechanism on a float, but rather the sensor like we do in the 12 Pro Max. And also I think they could make the camera bump a little bit less protruding or make it smaller, maybe even a flush camera again, and maybe do that by bringing a bigger battery. There hasn't been any information about battery, but I would love to see them update this so that it would be in all phones and bring even better stability in the future. So hopefully we'll see that. Now this year with the release of the iPhone 12 mini, a lot of people like the smaller form factor, but according to recent reports in the supply chain, it looks like they're not selling as well as some others. So Apple has shifted production from the iPhone 12 mini over to the iPhone 12 Pro, where there's higher demand, which makes a lot of sense. Apple does shift things around from time to time. That doesn't necessarily mean the 12 mini is selling poorly. It just means that they have a higher demand for the 12 Pro. So it wouldn't surprise me if they've made a ton of 12 minis and now they need to shift over to 12 Pros. We'll have to wait and see as far as the sales later on. Now, with MagSafe in the new iPhone 12 series, there's been a growing concern by some that it interferes with medical devices, and apparently it does. Apple posted a support document stating to keep the iPhone 12 series or MagSafe accessories 12 inches or more away from magnetic reactive medical devices. So maybe you have a pacemaker or something like that. You need to keep these magnets away so they don't interfere. However, you would want to consult with a physician to make sure that it's okay. So either way, I think those that have those sort of magnetically reactive devices would be familiar with this and generally not keep it near their heart or anything like that. So it's just something Apple has acknowledged that it does react. Magnets in general will do that. But if you have MagSafe phones or MagSafe devices or accessories, then it could react to those devices. So just be cautious of that, and also check out the support document. I'll link it in the description. Now, finally, with the iPhones, there is a lawsuit against the iPhone 6 for planned obsolescence in Italy. Italy is seeking 60 million euros, or those who filed the lawsuit, in complaints of people saying that Apple slowed down the phone in order to get people to upgrade. Now, Apple has acknowledged that they do slow them down in order to sort of allow for the battery to be replaced and not have the phone reboot, and then it will go back to normal. But prior to this, a lot of people were concerned that Apple did that on purpose. It didn't tell anyone. And so Italy is seeking damages for the users of iPhone 6. So that's something that we'll see. We'll have to wait and see the outcome of, but it's kind of interesting seeing how this phone's fairly old at this point, no longer software supported really, but we'll have to wait and see. Now, last week, we had a lot of great new information about upcoming Macs from Mark Gurman at Bloomberg. He has a great track record for getting things right, and this week he's given us even more. He said that Apple is working on a thinner and lighter, higher-end MacBook Air that should show up in the second half of 2021 and have MagSafe. Now, I said last week that we should see MagSafe in the new MacBooks, according to Mark as well, and MagSafe is a way to charge magnetically that used to adhere to the side of the MacBooks, and maybe you kick the cord, it doesn't yank your laptop onto the floor. So we would have MagSafe along with Thunderbolt and maybe even SD card slots, according to Mark. So that's something I would really look forward to, that I really want back. And if you're not familiar with an SD card, this is an SD card just like I use in the camera recording this video. And it's much easier, instead of using a dongle, to just slide it into the side of the MacBook and then be done with it. It's something I used all the time. And when they removed it, I was really kind of annoyed that I had to use a dongle from there on out. So it'd be great to have that back. Now, Apple is also said to be working on Face ID for Macs, and this makes the most sense instead of having to use the fingerprint sensor to unlock it, which isn't that big of a pain, but just having a camera at the top, just like Microsoft does with Windows Hello, or you do on your iPhone, open it up and it unlocks. However, according to Mark, they won't be in the next version of Macs, but rather the version after that. Maybe Apple's trying to get that module to be smaller for the notch of the iPhones first, and then we'll bring it over to the Macs. But apparently, according to Mark, it won't be in that version. So that's a little bit sad. Hopefully we'll see more of that in the future. That goes along with the new iMac as well. I think it's perfect for an upcoming iMac. That makes a lot of sense. But again, we'll see a lot of Macs released this coming year. Now, just like every year, Apple's working on the next iteration of their Apple Watch, and it's said that Apple will have a blood glucose monitor on the sensor on the back of the Series 7. Now, this is from ET News, so I'm not sure of their track record, but it is a patent that they own as far as a blood glucose monitor. But the important thing is to make sure that's accurate because people depend on that. So if they can make that accurate, something that you wear on your wrist without having to use invasive needles or anything like that, that would be a game changer for a lot of people. And if they can bring that to a watch, that would be great. So if they could get it medical certified and things like that, it would be amazing for those that have diabetes. So I think it would be something great to see. It's hard to say if we'll see it with a Series 7 Apple Watch, but hopefully we see something like that very soon, as it would help a lot of people. Now, a lot of people expected an update today because Apple said Time to Walk, which is a feature of watchOS 7.3 betas, or it was coming out today. However, they were able to push it to devices with watchOS 7.2. So if you go to your workouts, for example, you have Time to Walk. And all this is if you tap on this, you can take a walk, send the audio to your AirPods, for example, and then you can listen to stories from different people. And it will talk to you while you walk. You can see it's 28 minutes long, and this should be available now on a supported Apple Watch. So if you have watchOS 7.2, it should just show up. They were able to push it on the server side. So we really thought this would be out with an update today with watchOS 7.3, but it looks like Apple didn't need that. However, I would expect Apple to release iOS 14.4 along with watchOS 7.3 within the next couple of days at most, because today Apple released macOS 11.2 Release Candidate 2, but they didn't release any other updates. So I would expect them to push this out as soon as tomorrow with iOS 14.4, iPadOS 14.4, as well as watchOS 7.3, tvOS 14.4, and HomePodOS 14.4. Expect all of those very soon. Now, when it comes to the next version of iOS, iOS 15, which we normally see in June at WWDC, and then releasing to the public later in the year around September, according to a French website called iPhonesoft, iOS 15 will no longer have support for iPhone 6s or the iPhone SE or the iPhone 6s Plus. Apple apparently will be dropping support for them. We've heard this before, but they would drop support for those three devices, and instead you would have to have an iPhone 7 to use the new version. So you'd need an iPhone 7 or newer. Now, the same is true for iPad. So iPad Mini 4 could lose support, iPad Air 2, and iPad 5. Basically, any A8 and A9 chips would no longer be supported. So that is what I expect. I would think iPhone 7 and newer for iOS 15. That makes a lot of sense. We've had about 6 years of support on previous phones, such as the 6S, for example, and it makes sense that Apple would move on and only offer security updates to those devices as needed. Now, Apple is still said to be working on augmented reality and virtual reality headsets, so AR or VR, and the first one is said to be a very expensive VR headset. So virtual reality where it's similar to something like an Oculus, but done in Apple's way. It's said to be quite pricey and coming as soon as 2022, according to Mark Gurman. Also, they're working on augmented reality, and that's what I'm more excited about, where you have typical glasses that could overlay things in your environment. Similar to Google Glass, but done much better. Since it's been years, you have more time to implement things, and so you could overlay directions as well as maybe even people's names. I'm interested to see something like that, and that won't be coming, though, probably until 2023 at the earliest, so it's going to be a while. Now, Apple is still working on AirPods 3 and AirPods Pro 2, and AirPods Pro are great, but whatever they could do next, maybe improve the noise cancellation. Apple is said to be working on that, and we should see those as early as this year. There is no specific date for that, but some have said as early as March or April. So we should see those. Maybe a new design as well. Some of the designs have leaked. These do look like Apple's, but they're definitely different. So we could see something like that. Now, the final bit of information has to do with the AirPods Max, and Apple looks like they may have made it so you can replace the headband very easily. Maybe they had planned for different colors, or maybe they're still planning something like that, but you can actually swap these fairly easily if you have a SIM card tool. So if you take off the ear cups, they're magnetic, take them off, set it aside, extend this out like this. We'll turn the headphone. Then we'll take a SIM card removal tool and you insert it here. This is a little scary to do, but push it into here, and you have to be careful doing this. And there we go. The top pops out. So you push that in, there's a little pin, and now you can swap the headband. It has a mini lightning connector sort of look to it. And then it just goes back in like this, locks into place, and you're good to go. It's working again. So you put your ear cups back on. So they're easily repairable, I guess, if you damage your headband, and it works fine. There's no wires going through here that you can see anyway, and now they'll work again, no problem. So I thought that was kind of neat and wanted to share that with you. So that's it for the news this week, and of course, look for iOS 14.4 very soon, and as soon as it's out, I'll be sure to let you know, and I'll have a video on that as well. If you'd like to get your hands on the wallpaper, of course, I'll link it in the description like I normally do, and if you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe, and if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.